Welcome to one and all. I am Vasanta, Department of Computer Science, Gopalswamy PU College, Mysuru. Today we will start with the session 3 in the chapter Inheritance. In first we explained regarding what do you mean by inheritance, how to define inheritance, what are the advantages of inheritance, as well as inheritance program also we explained in the previous class. I just want to recall all those things. Inheritance is a process of creating a new class by using existing class, or we can say it as a process of acquiring properties from base class to derived class. In this we have few advantages. We are acquiring the properties from base class to derived class, that's why the code can be reused. Once again, no need to write the code. Only one time if I am going to write the code for the base, we are just extract the properties, that's why no need to write the code once again. That means we are reusing the existing code, that is our first advantage. Obviously, we are reusing the code, then time consumption is reduces, easy to extend, easy to maintain, as well as the memory consumption is also very less in inheritance. Inheritance is the process of acquiring the properties from base class to derived class. Then what do you mean by base class? Base class is nothing but existing class. Derived class is nothing but child class or new class we can say. Today I am to explain different types of inheritance. Different types of inheritance. Which are the different types of inheritance? When they come on types of inheritance, there are 5 types of inheritance. The first one is single level inheritance. Single level inheritance. The second one, multi-level inheritance. Third one, multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance. Fourth one, hierarchical inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance. And the last one is hybrid inheritance. Hybrid inheritance. Hybrid inheritance. When they come on types of inheritance, single level inheritance, multi-level inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, as well as hybrid inheritance. These are the few different types of inheritance. One by one I am to explain once again. The first one, single level inheritance. What do you mean by single level inheritance? In the first case, single level inheritance. What do you mean by that? The name itself suggesting only one level here we have. For example, we have one base class and one more is derived class. Derived class. The properties are based from single base to one single derived class. Only one base is there and only one derived class is there. Here the derived class acquires the property of base class, with that it may have additional properties also. Andre derived class base class inda derive ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಇದರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ additional properties ಕೂಡ ಇರಬಹುದು. For example, I am to take example on that father. Father properties are transferred to son. ಈಗ ಹೇಳುವಾಗ in single level only one base we have and only one derived class is there. The properties are passed from base class to derived class, and this derived class acquires a property of base class, with that it may have additional properties also. This is nothing but single level. The name itself suggesting you only one level is there. That is nothing but single level inheritance. And the second one, multi-level inheritance. multi-level inheritance. What do you mean by multi-level? More than one level is there. For example, here I will take base class. From that, one more derived class. One more derived class 1. And from this, once again we have one more derived class. One more derived class 2. Only one base class is there. From that base class, one more derived class. Class 1 and then class 2. This I am to explain with some example. For example, we have grandfather. Grandfather. Properties are transferred to father. From father, the properties are transferred to son. That is multi-level inheritance. Already one derived class is derived from one base class and one more derived class is derived from one base class as well as one more derived class. Here see the features. Grandfather properties are transferred to father and the father alien properties are the grandfather properties as well as additional properties. When they come on son, this son have the grandfather properties as well as father properties. With that, this son having also additional properties. Single level andre one level. Multi-level, multi andre more than one. More than one level is there. That is what multi-level inheritance. Next one, multiple inheritance. What do you mean by this multiple inheritance? Already we explained types, single level, multi-level, multiple. Multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance. Now what do you mean by this multiple inheritance? See the example, base class 1, base class 1 and one more base class is there, base class 2. From these two, one more derived class. Derived class. See here, the properties from base class 1 as well as the properties from base class 2 both are transferred to derived class. More than one base class is there at a time. Multiple ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ. Multi level ಅನ್ನುವಾಗ level wise it is more, whereas multiple means more than one. Here more than one base class is there. Here also more than one base class, but here what happens in multi level, base class then derived class and then the properties are transferred to derived class 2. Here multiple ಅನ್ನುವಾಗ base class 1, here base class 2. From these two base class, one more derived class we will get. This is multiple inheritance. Example, father, from father as well as mother, then next son. From this I can create, here father is one base class, mother is also one base class. From these two we are creating one more class son. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಸನ್ನಿಗೆ ಫಾದರ್ದು ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಮದರ್ದು ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ಇನ್ಹೆರಿಟೆನ್ಸ್. ಇಲ್ಲೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಡಿರೈವ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 1 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಬೇಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದು ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಡಿರೈವ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 1. This means that this derived class have the properties of base class. When they come on derived class 2, father, that is base class as well as derived class. And really more than one time we have the same copies. For example, base class ge illi properties transfer ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ derived class ಇಂದ properties ಇಲ್ಲಿ transfer ಆಗುವಾಗ more than one time the base class properties are transferred here. More than one time multiple copies will be there, whereas here only one time. This also base class, this one also base class. From these two, one derived class. This is nothing but multiple inheritance. Then what do you mean by the next one? Hierarchical inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance. The next one is hierarchical. Then what do you mean by this hierarchical inheritance? Hierarchical inheritance. In hierarchical inheritance, we have only one base class. Only one base class. From that, we have multiple derived class. For example, here derived class 1, derived class 1. First one, the derived class 1. The next one more from this we are creating derived class 2, derived class 2. From this we may going to get one more derived class, derived class 3, derived class 3. From this what happens? Only one base class we have, from that multiple derived class. That's why it is called as hierarchical inheritance. For example, I am to take one base class is father. This father having two daughters or two sons with that one daughter, son 1. Then one more son 2. And one more daughter. It means that this son 1 have the property of father, son 2 also having the properties of father, as well as daughter 1 also having the properties of father. Whereas what is the main difference here? This son having the properties both father and mother in multiple inheritance. When we come on hierarchical inheritance, only one base class is there. From that multiple derived class are there. Here the properties, when they come on the syntax, here base class, from that multiple derived class. It means that only one time this son having the properties of father, this son 2 also having the properties of father. With that it may have additional properties also. When they come on daughter, this daughter also having the properties of father, with that she may going to have the additional properties also. This is nothing but hierarchical inheritance. And when they come on last one, hybrid inheritance. The name itself suggesting hybrid inheritance. Then what do you mean by this hybrid? Hybrid inheritance. Hybrid inheritance. See, consider one base class 1. From that we will get one derived class, derived class 1. From this one more derived class, derived class 2. From these two we are getting one more derived class, derived class 3. See the syntax here, derived class 1 having the properties of base class, derived class 2 also having the properties of base class, but when they come on derived class 3, this derived class have the properties of base class, derived class 1 as well as derived class 2. And really multiple copies of base class is store agutte, because when they come on from this side, base class, derived class 1 properties, with that once again base class, derived class 2 properties, with that additional properties we are going to get. And then multiple copies of the base class here we will get here. This is hybrid inheritance. For example, grandfather. Grandfather. From that grandfather, one is son and one more will get, for example, daughter. From these two, we may going to get one more son. ಈಗ ನಾವು ಹೆರಿಡಿಟಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಾಗ ಇನ್ಹೆರಿಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅಂತ ಬಟ್ ಹೆರಿಡಿಟಿ ಐ ಟೋಲ್ಡ್ ಯು. ವೆರಸ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ನಾವು ಹೆರಿಡಿಟಿ ಅನ್ನುವಾಗ ಬರೀ ತಂದೆಯಿಂದ ಮಾತ್ರ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಸಮ್ ಟೈಮ್ ವಿ ಮೇ ಗೋ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ಸೋದರತೆಯಿಂದ ಕೂಡ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಕೆಲವು ಸಾರಿ ಹೇಳುವಾಗ ಅತ್ತೆ ಥರ ಬಿಹೇವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ, ಅತ್ತೆ ಥರ ಡ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಇಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ಹಿಯರ್ grandfather one base class, from that we have two derived class, from that we are getting one more derived class. This is nothing but hybrid inheritance. Once again I am to recall all these things. When they come on inheritance, there are 5 types of inheritance. The first one is single level inheritance. Single level inheritance, only one base and only one derived class. That is nothing but single level inheritance. multi-level, more than one level. Multi andre onadikkinta jaasti. Level wise more than one is there. Multi-level inheritance. When I come on example, grandfather, father and then son. That is multi-level inheritance. Multiple inheritance. Multiple means more than one. More than one base class. The more than one base class properties are transferred to single derived class. That is nothing but multiple inheritance. And the next one is hierarchical inheritance. In hierarchical inheritance, only one base class is there. From that, multiple derived class are there. When they come on hybrid inheritance, only one base class, from that two derived class, from that one more derived class we will get. These are the different types of inheritance. Once again, I am to recall all the things. Inheritance is nothing but process of creating a new class by using existing class. Advantage ಹೇಳುವಾಗ time consumption will be less, memory can be less, easy to extend, easy to maintain and code can be reused. What is the syntax we used to write? First class, derived class, then colon, visibility mode, then next we used to explain the base class. And when they come on types, single level, multi-level, multiple, hybrid, hierarchical. Next class we will meet with the next concept of the same chapter. Thank you for all of you.